Take a note. Right.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Wesley, Leo, we're here. Sorry, now my phone wants to ring. Who's calling?
We are back together, the dynamic duo. We got, myself, Nathan Hunter of the Bronx River Alliance. I've got Talima Wilson Evans of Learn and Play Party Friends.
Hey, everybody.
And this is Flutter by part 2 of Raising Butterflies. Thanks for tagging along.
Okay.
So we are going to dive in. We would love to do a little bit of an intro. Talima, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off.
Hey guys, so if you're new to this session, my name is Talima Wilson Evans, and I am the owner of Learn and Play Party Friends, which is basically, as you can see, a play-based educational party service. So I host party events. We have someone else coming in. I host party events, community events. I work with schools. I work with after schools, and I'm a homeschool mom as well. So I work with a lot of people in the homeschool community, providing educational play-based activities. And I've done a lot of events right here in New York City.
Yes, and that's where we met each other because Talima was launching a butterfly release of her own, raising butterflies with your family.
Yeah, so in 2021, my homeschool family and another homeschool family friend of mine, we wanted to organize a project that would help the kids in building up on a few skills like research skills, public speaking skills, and we wanted to promote a citizen science project, and we chose pollinators. So we chose to raise butterflies, and we researched all about the life and lifestyle of butterflies, how we would go about raising them and supporting our urban ecosystems. And that just happened to turn into one of the greatest opportunities of meeting Nathan at the Bronx River Alliance last year at Concrete Plant Park during one of their Saturday events. My group, we got the opportunity to release our butterflies in the optimal environment right there in the garden, so where they would have everything accessible to them. If you want to know more about that story, that was part 1 of this particular raising butterflies. So of the 4, it would be part 3, but of the 2 about raising butterflies, it would be part 1, and you can definitely find it on YouTube.
Yes, thank you, Talima, for that little trip down memory road. And we'll see we'll be doing some recaps on each of the weeks that we've been leading these different events, part of the series, this 4-part series. But a little bit about myself before we dive into those recaps. So my name again is Nathan Hunter, and I work with the Bronx River Alliance, and we're actually the stewards of the Bronx River. So collectively, we help steward the Bronx River, make sure that the parks along the Bronx River are beautiful, thriving spaces where community members can enjoy and also recreate in these spaces. I run a project called the Bronx River Foodway, which is an edible food forest that exists inside of Concrete Plant Park, a safe place for y'all to go out and forage or find both wild foods and cultivated plants, things like blueberries and raspberries. And there's a small orchard where you can find apples and peaches and cherries, all the delicious stuff. So I encourage you to come out to Concrete Plant Park. And I'm so grateful that everyone's following along with this series. It's been a real blast to work with Talima and to share this with y'all. So today is our last of the 4. Pretty exciting.
Don't worry, we'll be continuing on with a few other projects throughout this summer. And hopefully we'll come back to doing this once again. And if you ever feel the need to find out exactly what we were talking about, we're going to go through the takeaways.
Yes, and yes, exactly what Talima said. This is not the end of us. Although the series will come to a close, we'll be doing pollinator-based things all season long. For a quick recap, Talima and I came together starting in April. On April 5th, we actually were connecting with our friend Chrissy of the City Parks Foundation, and we were learning just all about pollinators. So our first of the recordings that you can find on our YouTube channel Bronx River Alliance's YouTube channel, was all about pollinators. And so we learned that pollinators are super diverse, that they range from birds to bees. Some of the pollinators are specialists where they focus on one plant in particular, but a lot of our pollinators are actually generalists. So they are not picky about what they eat or the habitat that they live in, but instead are generalists and they love a variety of flowers. Um, you know, just like I mentioned, a variety of flowers are important. So when we think about creating pollinator spaces or supporting our pollinator friends, we need to make sure that our gardens have a vibrant variety of flowers, different sizes, different shapes, which led us to talk about all about building pollinator habitats. So we came together with my coworker, Chrissy Murphy of the Bronx River Alliance on April 19th, and we discussed how to build habitat, right? How to build homes and safe places for pollinators to live and forage. Some of these key takeaways from that day, we learned that habitats provide food and shelter to pollinators. They range really from small little cracks in sidewalks where plants are growing to even the most barren of deserts are habitats for pollinators. Um, we learned that good habitats have a range of flower shapes, colors, and sizes. So a good habitat will have a range of big flowers and small flowers and yellows and purples and blues. So you want to think about all of those different types of plants. A big thing we also want you to remember is to consider seasonality. Each season, different flowers come up. So we want to make sure that we're providing for each season so our pollinators are not hungry at any point of the year, but instead have food all year long. And we want to make sure that we're providing host plants. So not just plants that provide food, but actually plants that those butterflies or those pollinators want to lay eggs or build homes on. So host plants are where we would find our eggs, which is something we'll talk a little bit more about coming up. Now, last week, Talima led this great conversation where she recapped her whole experience raising butterflies with her family. And we learned really that you can actually buy pollinators online. So you can buy larvae online or eggs online, and you can raise these butterflies from your home. You can also, though, you can look for butterfly eggs or caterpillars outside, and then either bring them indoor for observation or for a future release. Um, we also want to make sure that you have a large enough cage and have enough food for these larvae that you might be buying or finding outside. So you want to make sure that your larvae don't go hungry. We learned also that butterflies cannot be released on a wet day or on a very windy day. They need a very perfect kind of sunny, dry day. If you release them on these bad days, their chance of survival goes down. So we want to make sure that we set ourselves up for success. Talima, anything you want to add into this little
Yeah,
takeaway?
sure. From the experience, one thing I can say that I did learn is that temperature really does affect the metamorphosis process, like the pupating process. It affects everything. It affects their metabolism and how fast they will grow, how fast they will eat, how fast they will go into the chrysalis and emerge. So temperatures really do affect that. And that's one thing that I didn't anticipate when I ordered the caterpillars. Again, like I said, we were researching, we were learning along the way, and we did find out that the warmer temperatures, especially the warmer temperatures that I have in my home, really did affect the process of their growth. So when I expected them to emerge maybe 7 or 10 days later, they emerged at 5 days. And so a lot of things, again, you can find out everything from the story from the previous video that you'd find on YouTube, and we'll definitely have the links. We'll share the links to everyone. But yeah, that's one of my takeaways. Temperatures are very important. And it's something to think about as we consider, as Nathan had mentioned before, climate change.
So real. Thank you for mentioning that, Talima, because here in the office, we received some chrysalises this past Friday, and the office and the city was really warm this weekend. And so
Yes.
we started seeing all of these chrysalises opening up and butterflies were starting to emerge.
Yeah, a lot faster.
A lot faster. Something that should take 7 days took only 3.
Yes,
So
exactly.
it's a really good point. for everyone to know. If your home runs high, runs warm, something good to know. All right, and Talima, I was going to ask you just to kind of recap, right, on your little process of buying and sourcing.
Yeah. So this is a photo of my actual caterpillars. So when I initially purchased them, I believe that I purchased them from Amazon, but the third party company was from Carolina.com or Nature's Gift, Nature's Gift. I was told that I would get maybe about 5 caterpillars, and then out of the 5, maybe 3 would survive through the process. I actually received 7 caterpillars per jar. So I had a lot of caterpillars at hand. I also believe that I would receive the really, really small caterpillars at the first instar stage. The previous video, we discussed that about the different stages as they continue to molt and grow. And as you can see right here, they're pretty big. So they're about at the 5th instar stage. They're gonna grow I had them for maybe a week. They grew another few centimeters, and then they were ready. They were ready to metamorphosize into their chrysalis. They were ready to change over. So this is the actual picture. I took this picture myself. The book behind it, I bought the Monarch Butterfly book. It was the only book that I found available. However, these particular caterpillars are painted lady butterflies, which is something that are native to our northern regions right here in New York City. However, this was the only ones that I could find. I really couldn't find at the time that I was trying to purchase them, looking for monarchs or any other butterflies. So they were pretty common, and they are pretty common here in our cities.
They definitely are. However, I would just like to note, certain states do not allow the release of painted ladies. So Connecticut is one of them, a neighboring state, as well as I believe DC. But when you go to purchase caterpillars, they will tell you restrictions if states have restrictions.
Yes, they do.
So painted ladies are super common. So they're just trying to limit create a balance in the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
Yeah. And Talima, you had shared with us an image of kind of the kit that came with your larvae.
So this is the kit. It comes along with it. Whichever company you decide to buy it from, they definitely will provide a kit. But this was pretty sufficient. It came along with the jar and the food that was already prepared for the caterpillars at the bottom of the jar. So you didn't even have to open the jar at all whatsoever until you found that they had already prepared their chrysalis. So the pieces here, you see the butterfly water feeder. You're to open up the cap, fill it up with some water, and there's a sugar packet, as you can see at the bottom, and just add the sugar water. So basically, it was sugar water with a cotton ball sitting at the top, which is there for the butterflies to use their proboscis and stick it inside like a little. They have a straw mouth basically, and they are able to get their sugar water from there. The spray bottle was for the spray bottle was also for them, but it was also, considering, some temperatures may be kind of hot, and and especially my home, I needed that as well. So when the chrysalis were already set up inside the net, I would use a spray bottle and spray it once in the morning and once at night, just to make sure that they weren't drying out. They did have some moisture there. The dropper there is also for you to provide a few droplets of sugar water with your emerging caterpillars. And it comes along with a booklet of instructions there as well. So it was pretty handy, and everything that you needed is right there, other than the butterfly cage that you would place them in.
I love how it's a really comprehensive kit. And the kit that I actually bought the chrysalises separate. So when I went to Carolina.com, I actually ended up just buying the chrysalises because I was like, oh, it's a faster process. But what they did not give me all of these steps. So I just made my own little dish of sugar water,
Yes.
2 teaspoons of sugar water for every half of cup of water. And that's the perfect ratio for them. And I put it in a little dish, and I put a little cotton ball so that they can stand on the edge and like use their proboscis to lick the cotton ball. So you could also DIY this at home. I just want to acknowledge that in case your kit did not come with it. But yeah, really, really great to see. And then nets, of course, right?
Yeah, so I bought the 12 by 12 net initially. I had about 4 of them. Again, I had 28 caterpillars, so it was a lot. I was working with a lot there. And I placed at least, depending on how many emerged, I believe out of the 28, 25 emerged, which is a pretty good ratio. And I placed at least 5 to 7, depending on their behavior, depending on their behavior in the netted cages. So that's what was going on. There was a lot of activity going on with my butterflies. So some of them I did have to separate into their own separate cages. But you can definitely find these cages on Amazon or any other website that will provide you with the caterpillars or the butterflies, or at any stage. Actually, you can find some online that will provide the caterpillars, even the eggs, or as Nathan purchased, they purchased the chrysalis, am I right? Right, so you can find them, you can buy them at any stage. You can even buy the butterflies, am I right?
Yeah, I
They
actually
can
bought.
send you the butterflies, yeah.
I'm buying them for every stage. So I
Right,
I I bought larvae, which will come next week. I bought chrysalises last Friday, and I'm buying some butterflies for the actual butterfly
right,
release, just so
right.
we can make sure that we have some butterflies for the
Mm-hmm.
release.
Certainly. But today our conversation is going to be about what, Nathan? What are we not? It
Yeah.
won't be about us buying them. We did have to buy them initially when we first was researching, but again, it was a learning experience for myself and my family and the others that have participated. It's been a learning experience for us as we've gone along with this particular project, and now we want to take it a step further and focus on a lot of the butterflies that are in our urban community. And how are we going to do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's silly to ignore the fact that it costs money to buy these insects, right? For me, I'm just going to be transparent. It cost me about $350 to buy the chrysalises, to buy the cages, to buy all the materials I needed. Granted, I was buying a lot because I'm sharing with many schools, but money should never be a barrier for folks. So I encourage you to explore your gardens, explore your parks, and see if you can find caterpillars or butterflies, butterfly eggs outdoors, and then just make a net using a variety of things that we can talk about. And so today we're gonna dive into how do you find caterpillars and butterfly eggs outside. So really excited about this. I've been working with students from Fannie Lou Hamer High School at the Foodway, trying to find these larvae, either the caterpillars or the eggs. But first, we want to just like understand what the steps are so we can go out and do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about starting off with understanding what butterflies are native or what butterflies you can find in your garden. We want to make sure we also understand the host plants, because the host plants are what the native butterflies are looking for. So if you don't have host plants, you don't have butterflies. Um, you want to understand what type of caterpillars you're looking for, because if you're looking for caterpillars outside, you want to know what to look for, what colors, what shapes, because they can often disappear. Like they can hide from your, from your vantage point. We're tall people. This is a great activity for shorter people or for kids, because
Yes.
it's all about checking the backside of leaves. So we'll be looking for eggs on the backside of leaves, and we'll be thinking about where caterpillars are existing by looking for the signs of caterpillars. So in this
And
case,
they camouflage very well in their
oh,
environment.
they
Absolutely necessary for their survival. So yes, it is a project that I am so excited about going
Mhm.
on.
Yeah, it's so true. And so caterpillars, they're chomping, they're taking bite marks. So it's good guess to look underneath a leaf that's got bite marks, and you can figure out if the caterpillars are there. So
Hmm.
let's dive into this. This is just kind of an overview. So let's see what's up.
Wow.
So, as we've learned over the series, there are so many butterflies that are native to New York. Chrissy mentioned that there were hundreds of different varieties of butterflies just here in this state. This is a small amount that I'm spotlighting here, but it's good to go out when you're starting to seek out caterpillars just to know what type of caterpillars you should be looking for. So, we start first with the butterflies. So, it's good to do a little research and understand what butterflies you're looking at. Um, And it's good to also know what their food source is. Because if your garden doesn't have the food source or the host plant, you can't expect those butterflies to be there. So these are just a few that are at the foodway that attract butterflies on a regular basis. We have asters, which are all over the foodway and are a great food source for actually these painted ladies. We have native grasses, which are surprisingly a really important habitat for all of our pollinators, not just our butterflies. And we've got milkweed, which is a famous food source for our monarchs. So if you can find milkweed, or if you see milkweed, good chance you'll find monarch butterflies in that location. We also want to acknowledge that dill and members of the carrot family are really important for a lot of our butterflies, specifically the swallowtails. They love the dill family. So if you ever want any of those beautiful blue flowers, very similar to the emoji on our phone, you have to plant dill or some member of the carrot family. And then
these plants are extremely important, because I'm thinking here that, like, even if I had to purchase another set of caterpillars, so on and so forth, I would definitely want to purchase a host plant as well, or find a host plant somewhere as well, to be able to provide that specific nutrients for that particular species. Am I right?
Totally, yeah. I would say, a lot of us are living in apartments and it might be not realistic to buy a plant. So definitely explore your parks. Use apps like iNaturalist to actually identify the different plants in your park and understand if they're a food source for butterflies. There's some really great photos and resources in our resource guide that we'll share with you all at the end of today's call that really will help you kind of identify these plants. Yeah. So host plants are really important to know because, that's what these caterpillars are munching on. So these are just a few of the many caterpillars that we want to identify. I would say these are some of our most popular caterpillars that we see at the foodway. We've got the Eastern tiger swallowtail, which almost looks like a snake, and they actually intentionally look like a snake so predators get scared to eat them. Monarch caterpillars, these in the middle, the top middle, really bright colored. They intentionally are bright colored to scare away predators and to warn them because they're actually toxic. The milkweed plant makes them toxic. There's a latexy kind of sap that comes from it that is that makes the caterpillar not too delicious. And then the cabbage white butterfly, really common. I think that's the only butterfly we're seeing at the moment at the park. And they love any member of the broccoli or cabbage family. We call that family the brassicas. So you can find these fluttering around your parks right now.
Wow.
And then the bottom two, right? You can see the coloring of the black swallowtail, and look at it. It's right on a parsley plant, which is a member of the carrot family. And then there's our painted lady, front and center, a little spiky, munching on a leaf. Maybe it's an aster, maybe it's a mallow. But I do want to identify just this discoverlife.org. You can actually scan this image right now with your phone, and it will take you to a really cool website that will help you understand what type of caterpillar you're looking at. So I encourage you to try that out.
Okay. And the process to help us identify the caterpillars, would they ask like specific questions to help the children and the parents understand what they should be looking for and what they are looking at?
Yeah, great question, Salima. Exactly that. So when you go to this website, you'll actually see that they ask certain questions. They ask, is it spiky or is it smooth? Is it green or is it colorful? And based on your responses, it'll guide you to the answer. So it's very similar for those that have tried identifying trees or identifying plants. There's a lot of books that follow a similar format, but very user friendly. I encourage you to try out this website.
Okay.
And also, if you know of any resources, feel free to drop them in the chat at any point. Share those resources with the rest of us. So I mentioned earlier, one of the best ways to find caterpillars is just to look for signs of them. And for me, the signs look like chew marks. So these are just a couple images of what you might see when you're out in the park or your garden and what the bite marks actually look like. Some of my students were finding damaged leaves that have little holes in them and things like that. And they thought they were bite marks, but it turned out that they weren't. It was just damage to the leaf. So this is just like very clear. You can see the little chomp marks, the little mouth. And so you want to keep an eye out for these signs and then flip over the leaf and see what you can find.
In this second picture, Nathan, is that also some of the silk webbing that's also on the plant?
I think so. You actually mentioned, I believe, you were seeing silk, right, in your cages?
Yes, yes. I saw it inside the jar when they were eating. They were just, it's a lot of silk webbing everywhere. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it looks like because they've been
yeah,
eating a lot. This caterpillar's having a good time.
yeah, and that's the painted lady right there on the right
Yeah.
side.
Mm-hmm.
So many of you are like, okay, so I found a caterpillar. Super exciting. I'm just gonna yank them right off and throw them in this dish. I want you to move slowly and to be very gentle. Think of this plant like it's you, or think of this caterpillar like it's you. How would you want to be treated? And so you want to, if you're going to bring this caterpillar inside for raising indoors, what I encourage you to do is actually remove the leaf that it's on. Don't even touch the caterpillar, because believe it or not, some caterpillars, they have ways of stinging you or even like stabbing you
Um,
with their tail. They've got a little spiky tail, some of them. So you never really want to touch the caterpillar, but instead just remove the leaf and place them right in the box.
okay. And so when we have these caterpillars inside the box, um, that's again why it's important to know exactly the species and know exactly the proper food source. Am I right?
Yes, Talima. Yeah, spot on. I mean, here we've got monarchs. That's what we're staring at. These are monarch caterpillars. And inside you can actually see that this is milkweed.
Mm-hmm.
But Talima, you were, asking a great question earlier where it was, how often should you change out the food?
Right, right.
And I would say don't overthink it. Use your senses. So I would actually go in and touch the leaves and see if they're still firm. If they've
Mm-hmm.
lost their rigidity, if they're not that strong or firm anymore, you might want to take out the leaves and put new ones. It's good to keep your container clean.
Mm-hmm.
And so what my thought is maybe have two small containers, one that has new bedding, and actually like remove the caterpillars using the old leaves and carefully moving them to the
Oh,
next
wow.
container.
Okay, that's really a good plan. Yeah. And so with this, you would just have a nice container, glass, plastic. Is there anything preferred?
I think either work really well. I think plastic is or glass is really great because it's really easy to clean. I
Mm-hmm.
think we were talking earlier, maybe using a mason jar, like a large mason jar, and using the ring of the lid to secure maybe some type of cloth on the top that prevents them from escaping, but allows you to open up the jar when need be. What's exciting about that is the caterpillars, when they're ready to turn into chrysalises, will attach themselves to that fabric. And then it's very easy for you to remove that fabric because it's being held by the lid.
Yeah, that's one thing that the jar, I probably didn't mention it, that when you buy the kit, that's how it's already set up. So the jar that the caterpillars are in, there is a piece of fabric at the top. So the only time you have to open and remove the fabric is when the chrysalis have already, yeah, that the one before, yeah, exactly, that fabric there. You just take it, and they provide also a small plastic safety pin so that you can just take the fabric and safety pin it to the inside of that 12 by 12 cage that I showed you, and just wait for your caterpillars to emerge. So it's a pretty neat process. And I think you're definitely right. When it comes down to the mason jars, it's good to be able to implement it just like that.
Try it out though. If you don't have mason jars, maybe use an old pasta jar, maybe you in a rubber band that holds
Yes.
down like I'm someone who does not want you to go out and break the bank. I want you to be creative and think about ways to use found materials that are clean, or recyclable material, that can then be recycled. Let's try to consider how to work smart. So for here, this image doesn't have a lid. I would imagine they took off the lid, just for the photo. So you would never leave all these caterpillars without a lid because they will just crawl on out and you'll have caterpillars all over your home.
Hey, Nathan, I'm sitting here looking at these caterpillars and I'm saying to myself, I've never ever seen a monarch caterpillar before. Are they really that big?
They're juicy. They're big.
Wow.
They're
Okay.
thick.
Wow. All right. They look about maybe what, 3 inches?
I
Maybe
would say that's
more?
probably 3 to
Four
4
inches,
inches.
3 or 4
Yeah.
inches.
And
Ooh. And then
pretty,
they're not even ready to change. That's probably not even the fifth or sixth instar stage. That's amazing.
right? I know, honestly. And I would say that's almost the size of my pinky, to be honest.
Oh,
They're probably
wow.
each about the size of my pinky.
Okay.
So super cool. Lots of different variety, right? With caterpillars.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Talima with others about, maybe you don't want to bring in the caterpillars indoors. I know Talima had a whole moment last year where eggs were hatching and little baby caterpillars were all over the house. Maybe you've got the heebie-jeebies about caterpillars, and that's okay. I encourage you, if you have any type of green space or a patio or even a rooftop, to consider maybe planting some milkweed right inside of a container like this image, and maybe you use a net to actually once the butterflies have laid the eggs, you can close this little bag and create a caterpillar condo so that they don't escape and you can actually observe their whole transformation outdoors. And the food source is right there.
I see someone in the comments said they made a Thule net cage. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that later. That's going to be great.
Oh, so cool. I want to hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, just an idea that I found online. People are brilliant online. You could just see all these great ideas of how people are creating um, spaces for raising butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all about like caterpillars, right? So this is maybe how you raise your caterpillars. But let's say you want to actually find eggs. This is when you really go out with your magnifying glass, like Tyler here, and you look below each leaf. He's looking below some milkweed to see if he can find some larvae. This was yesterday at Concrete Plant Park, and we are still not seeing any monarchs, even though I've heard monarchs have arrived in Connecticut, where my parents live. They've
Okay.
arrived in Vermont. So they'll be showing up soon.
Right.
And these tiny eggs, right? So these are actually painted lady butterfly eggs, and they're this nice little blue. Some eggs are yellow, some eggs are white.
And they really are the size of a pin tip. And definitely that was my experience with holding on to my butterflies for a lot longer than I expected because of the weather. And we did mention, I think Nathan did mention that briefly. I was not able to release my butterflies when I expected to because of the weather last year in 2021, late May. It got really cold. You know how New York City is a little bipolar when it comes to the weather. Right before summer fully kicks in. So we had some nice warm temperatures, emerging butterflies, and now then the cold temperatures hit right in that week. And when I wasn't able to release them, and in the process of the days of waiting, yeah, we had a few deliveries. Well, not a few, about 300. Okay, a painted lady butterfly can actually lay about 300 eggs in the span of 24 to 48 hours. So yeah, had a few
Wow.
deliveries.
Just a few. And I think a good way to identify if you're outside, if a butterfly is actually laying eggs, is to notice if it's kind of bending its body this way, if it's moving its abdomen towards the leaf. It kind of bends into like a C shape, and that's when they're actually releasing eggs onto the leaf. And so these are some really great images of a cabbage white moth and a swallowtail laying eggs on a leaf directly. So when I'm out in the park, I'm always just kind of standing still, looking around, seeing where the butterflies are going. Are they dancing in the sky? Are they landing on leaves? If they're landing on leaves, I go to those leaves and then I check underneath to see if they had just laid the eggs. And that's a good moment for you to either take that leaf, remove that leaf from the plant carefully, and put that leaf into your cage, and then wait for those eggs to hatch. And then just be ready with some food. I think
Yes.
that is the most important part, is just find the right food. That is going to be the one thing I drill into everyone's head, is find the right food and make sure you have the source in mind so you can go back to that plant and harvest more when you need it.
When it comes to if you have this wonderful opportunity to find the larvae in nature and do exactly what Nathan said, from my experience, it would be best, instead of placing the larvae into a net, because when the caterpillars emerge, they're going to be pretty tiny. And from the situation that I had, when the butterflies laid the 300 eggs in those small 12 by 12 cages, those small 12 by 12 cages, even though they were very small, even the fabric, the netting fabric was still large enough for the caterpillars to escape. So I woke up one morning with my kitchen full of baby caterpillars. And again, if you take the time to look at the YouTube video, you'll see a small clip of me taking a paintbrush, a small paintbrush, and carefully lifting up. Well, you didn't get a chance to see me lift up 200 caterpillars. I think that's about as much as I can find. So yeah, but you did get a chance to see me carefully placing the caterpillars onto the food source that I was able to provide for them. The long story, but it was
No,
enjoyable.
but
It was
that's
definitely enjoyable, and I hope to experience raising butterflies again.
Talima, I love that you remind people of this experience, because it's important, because we're learning, right? And we're learning from
Yes.
other people's, I wouldn't say mistakes, but from other people's learning moments. And
Yes.
I think it's important for us to remember, okay, so like you mentioned, these when they emerge from eggs, these caterpillars are really tiny. And so it's a good idea to make sure that, yeah, like you mentioned, that netting or whatever fabric you're using, it has small enough gauges or openings in the
Mm-hmm.
webbing that it
Mm-hmm.
keeps them in. And I'm immediately thinking of, like, if you had an old sock or if you had an old t-shirt, you could totally
Yeah.
cut that up, or an old rag, and
And
that would
cover the
be,
jar.
yeah, cover the
Mm-hmm.
jar up. That's perfect. And use a rubber
Yeah.
band at the top to hold it
Exactly.
down, really easy.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I don't want you to have to chase capture all of the caterpillars. I felt like I was working with catching them all, the Pokemon, catch them all. Gotta catch them all. I was trying my best. I did. But it was a wonderful experience to see that whole entire process, and that they were out looking for their food source. So again, it's very important to have it available. And unfortunately, like I said, I did not expect them to emerge. It was a learning process for me. I didn't even expect for the butterflies to mate. From my research, I was told that in a small cage that they would not mate. And so it was entirely beyond my expectations. But yet again, I did have them indoors longer than expected. So yeah, it was a learning process for me. So I'm looking forward to finding some out in the wild. I can't wait to get out there.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to find some out there and see what it's like to, yeah, to raise them or to watch them go through their process. So, we are thinking about food sources. We acknowledged on the previous page some food. This is, the famous milkweed. So if you're looking for those monarchs, this is again what they look like. And you can see that sap that I was talking about, or that latexy resin. That is actually what makes the caterpillars poisonous to predators. So a good way to identify, these plants is also to bend a piece and see if it oozes this white kind of latex. So monarchs, milkweed. And then, the best part is waiting for them to emerge and take lift. So this is just a wonderful image from last year's butterfly release of Talima and her family and some other students that were learning how to raise butterflies. And so this is what your experience could look like on June 4th, or any other day that your butterflies are ready for release and you want to bring them to concrete. Um, With that being said, this is what the park looks like, and we're excited to welcome you on our upcoming butterfly release on June 4th. Here's our flyer. We are located by the 6 train, by Westchester Ave and Whitlock, very close to the the Bronx River. We're right adjacent to the Bronx River. But it'll be a really fun day. So even if we don't have tons of butterflies to release, we will be out here dancing and singing. We'll be learning together, as well as enjoying some arts and crafts and some special music from Uptown Vinyl Supreme. If you like to boogie,
Yes.
you will enjoy this party. And, you know, we always want you all to continue learning. And again, this is where we bought our butterflies. And there's a whole host of resources if you scan the QR code to keep learning. We've put together a really great like one pager of resources so that you and your families can be raising butterflies with all the information you need. And again, you know, if you are starting like me, raising painted lady butterflies, and all of a sudden they emerge and you're panicking, you can simply go to carolina.com and you can find these really great care sheets, which give you all the steps so you don't have to freak out. You can know that you're in good hands. And yeah, I encourage you, if you have questions or issues, to reach out to me, or I might say Talima, to, you know, to troubleshoot those questions. We're here as resources, and we want to make sure you have successes. And so with that, you know, that's our presentation. I'm curious if anyone has any questions or has any thoughts that y'all want to share before we kind of close up for the day.
I would like to hear about the butterfly net that was created. I saw it in the the chat area. Are you there?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes.
I had so much fun. I think it was for like 3 years in a row. I found caterpillars to kind of rescue, just kind of naturally grazing on some plants. And I looked online and found a DIY project, and I just sewed a cage. I bought one online and it got really dirty. And I know I had to kind of keep a sterile environment, not to spread disease. So I purchased some fabric store net, and I made a great hanging DIY project. Maybe on the 4th, I could bring it by and kind of, if I have any caterpillars in my garden, I can swing by and do a little show and tell. But it's pretty simple, and it's a great, in case you're saying like it gets a little expensive every year to buy them online, you can make them very cheap, and then just, you can throw them in the washing machine, or you can just hand wash them with bleach to sterilize it. So it's good to be able to cut costs and kind of do it yourself.
I see your chicken, Leo.
I love it,
Thank
bro.
you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is wonderful, because I'm really, really excited about getting out and searching in the parks. Does anyone know like parks that nearby, or parks that you're aware of that may be in someone else's area that we could probably just take a peek and look around and see what's going on there? Because I'm definitely going to visit Concrete Plant Park. I'm expecting to see look, I have my magnifying glass ready. Okay. I have my magnifying glass ready. Okay?
I have an idea. I propagate native wildflowers for Bronx River Wildflower Corridor, and my area of my community garden, where I have like thousands of native seedlings and plants, always has butterflies. I saw a monarch and a red admiral in my native plant propagation area yesterday, and
Wow.
also the year before, a Eastern comma, I believe it is, or it's a question mark. And those are, I think I've seen one of those in like 10 years, but one floated into my propagation area. I think it was last year or the year before. So if you really wanted to, my garden is called Crystal Garden, and it's on East 180th Street, by the near Bronx River at the East 182nd Street. It's kind of in that part of West Farm Square.
All right. Okay.
So I dropped my email in the
in the chat.
Yeah, so if anyone's like really wants to see some people who found like butterfly success, my community garden has those elements to be supporting pollinator work and conservation. So it's like every year I always have these great chance opportunities where there's always butterflies in that area because they love native plants.
All
So I
right.
encourage, yeah, I encourage everybody to reach out, and they want to like learn something before they get into it. They're totally welcome to email me and just come by and visit, or even work with Nathan and I. We're doing a monarch celebration on October 27th. So we want to do monarch tagging. We wanted to help people release their caterpillars and read more about this hard work and these places. So I would encourage everybody to come take part in our celebration by emailing us.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you
bro.
so much. I'm definitely going to look into that, honestly. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say from a New York City Parks standpoint, we have committed to native plants. So we are really dedicating our future plantings to all native species. So one of the things you can do is you can actually look up on our New York City Parks website a variety of the butterfly gardens they've established in the past couple years. There's been a big push since 2020 to really install butterfly gardens on pollinator corridors in all of our parks. Some of the flagship spaces include Mullally Park down by Grand Concourse over by Yankee
Yeah.
Stadium, as well as Fran Siegel and Joyce Kilmer. These are some of our oldest parks in the network, and there's been some early kind of like gardens that have been established there. So that's where I've been going lately to kind of also be looking for eggs and caterpillars.
Wow, thank you for sharing so much. Yes, because I'm in the Bronx neighborhood, so the lower part, and I have passed by Malawi Park a few times and didn't even know. So yeah, definitely that's going to be a place I'll take the opportunity to visit a few places this summer. Again, I have my jars ready. I have my magnifying glass. I'm ready to get out and try to find them. And if I don't have any success, I know to make sure to have the specific native plant and species plant available if I decide to purchase either the caterpillars or the larvae or some butterflies offline.
Exactly. Well, I think we're coming to a close right here, and just want to thank folks for tuning in. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel where you can review not only this session, but all 4 parts. And again, we encourage you to come out on June 4th to Concrete Plant Park for our butterfly release and our day of community celebration. So come on out 12 to 4. You can go to bronxriver.org/calendar to learn more.
Yes. And if
I
you're
wanna-
ever looking, for Learn and Play Party Friends, presently I am on Instagram. I am also on Facebook, and you'll find primarily a lot of the videos, the events, and some of the energy from our initial butterfly project from 2021. You'll find it there on Facebook at Learn and Play Party Friends.
Yes, big thank you to Talima for catalyzing this whole series and teaming up with me. May this be a tradition we share on Bronx River each season, and y'all should be a part of this process. So thank you all again.
All right, we're looking forward to June 4th.
We'll see y'all then.
All right,
All
have
right,
a great one.
folks.
Bye, everybody.